Welcome to Deep Look, Ultiworld's weekly podcast about the latest in the ultimate world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me, Ultiworld senior editor Keith Raynor on this Tuesday, March 17th. Keith, I don't even have to ask. I see that you're wearing green. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Did you, my mom used to dye the milk green. Did you do that at your house?
No. My wife's family has some Irish roots. Yeah, Miles was very into spent all of his time after school yesterday building leprechaun traps around the house. Eager to make sure that we caught a leprechaun. So we're in the spirit up here.
Good. I'm wearing green pants. I can promise you. We've got a good one for you today. We got Northwest Challenge on tap for the women's division. So we got a big ultimate tournament coming up this weekend in the college scene, and we're getting close to the end of the season. You know, we've got the final chance to make your case for a bid is pretty much here. We're also going to be talking with Marc Zigterman from USA Ultimate about all things Club Ultimate. So that's coming up in just a moment. March Madness this week, Keith. We got USA versus Venezuela baseball. I'm fired up. Sports time.
I'm laughing because you're like, we're getting close to the end of the season here. My team has not received our spring practice schedule yet. We have not started practicing. So.
Is that true?
That's just how it is.
Started practicing?
They are still on spring break now, and we do not get our spring practice schedule until they return. So
that's crazy.
When they get back, hopefully we'll have our practice schedule before they get back, but we will not have our first actual practice. Well, we've had a couple indoor practices for a facility that we rented, but we've had our first official school practice until next week.
we've had our nice fall spring here in the tri-state. You know, it was like 55 and beautiful 2 days ago, and now it's freezing cold. Did you get some snow up there in Connecticut?
Not really. Mostly rain
they got
this week.
Dumped on up north, I think.
Once you finally get the snow off the ground, at least it feels like spring, even though the temperatures are not really spring-like.
That's true. That's true. All right. Well, it is time for our trivia question of the week.
All right, Charlie, this week's AI slap trivia question of the week. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to keep it simple here with this one. Who has the longest active D1 quarters streak, Charlie? Quarterfinals streak. We talk a lot about the semi-streaks, but who's got the longest active quarter streak in D1?
My guess, quarters. Like, it's probably not UNC men. I mean, they've definitely been in quarters for a long time, but I bet somebody's gone further than them. My guess is Oregon men. I got the buzzer every week, man.
The buzzer's your friend. No, Oregon stands at 3. So you forgot that they did not go to nationals in 2022.
Wait, Oregon men didn't go to nationals in 2022? That can't be right. You tell me they missed nationals? So. What? Am I like, is my brain mush? I don't believe I can't imagine they've ever missed nationals since I've been following Ultimate. I'll look at it. I don't think you're right. Okay, well, should I take another guess? My next guess is just boring. I'll guess UNC men. Oh my God, I should have just gone with that in the first place.
Talk yourself out of it. And what's amazing to me about this is how much longer it is than everybody else. The UNC men have been in quarters for 12 straight nationals. 12. I think the next highest I could find were Sizz and Mama Bird, who have 6 apiece. 12. Double anybody else for Dark Side. So the semi streak may be gone, but they have a new streak to hold on to, a model of consistency in the modern era.
Keith, you're right. Oregon missed nationals in 2022. I don't know why I don't remember that. That is crazy. Utah State and Washington made it that year out of a 2-bid Northwest. I've blocked that from my memory.
You know what's crazy, Charlie? They didn't go to nationals the year before that either. Although that was NorCal year.
Well,
So,
and that was fake, right? That was the
That's
fake
your
one.
Mickey
I don't count that.
Mouse.
I don't count that.
They didn't make quarters in 2010 either, though, or in 2019 either, though. So
okay, so I was a horrible guess, is what you're telling me. I mean, them missing nationals 4 years ago is that's pretty bad. I should probably know that. All right, good stuff. All right, I think now it is time to welcome in Marc Zigterman. He is the competition director for all things Club Ultimate at USAU. The technical title is Manager of Competition and National Team Programs. Marc, welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. Thanks for joining us. We are obviously still a couple months away from the start of this club season, but many notable changes coming this year and lots to discuss. I think I want to begin with one of the things that kind of caught my eye right away, which is that the seeding for nationals is changing this year. We've been doing this random draw format where top 4 ranked teams get put into the top seeds of each pool, and then each of the next buckets are randomized beyond that. So the next 4 teams get randomly slotted into A, B, C, D, and of course we do the draw here on Deep Look. It's a lot of fun. This year, a bunch of changes. I'm not going to try to read the whole set of rules because it's a little bit complex, but it basically changes the way that the buckets are created and how teams are slotted to sort of, in my sense of it, is that you're trying to reduce the amount of randomness and kind of reward teams who are noticeably better than teams that are ranked below them. Is that an accurate read?
Charlie?
Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
I think the simple explanation is we're more or less going back to seeded, but if the teams are ranked really close together, we'll mix them up.
Is that a fair explanation? What would you say, Marc?
Yes, sort of. I think number one is, well, first of all, this came out of a player rep recommendation. So at the club working group. And we looked at it long and hard. And one of the big factors we're looking at is wanting to make the regular season matter. And what often happens, we looked at the past 12 nationals to see how this would play out, and did various ways of doing this differently, and fell onto this final one that we put in the guidelines. And a lot of times, the 1 seed always earns the 1 seed. I mean, they have been consistently, almost always in their own bucket. When we do it, the new method, they're in their own bucket by themselves, and then these other buckets have varying sizes. Fairly often, the 2 seed earns the 2 seed, the 3 seed earns the 3 seed, but a lot of times 3, 4, 5 is very, very complicated. And that has some impacts because a lot of times 3, 4, 5 will be close and 6 will be much weaker. So who gets the 3 seed really matters. And those are the kind of issues when we did it the old way, where the national directors did the seeding, where we would spend days talking through who gets the 3 seed, who gets the 4 seed, who gets the 5 seed. And then we'd put it up and you guys would beat us up because it was wrong, no matter what we did. So we want the regular season to matter. We want to have some sense of fairness on who gets in which buckets. And we want to have some sense of fairness of how the pools end up being seeded. So those were kind of the underlying reasons for going with this method. And we also just think doing the draw is more fun than having the national directors and me do it all in the back room, smoking our cigars and drinking our whiskey.
We knew that you were doing that. Confirmed on Deep Look. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Obviously the players don't like quite how random the method we've used the past couple of years has been. And I get that, because it's like you could be the 5 ranked team and you end up catching the 1 seed in pool A, even though you're clearly way better than the 8th ranked team. So it makes some sense. But then the question that comes back to for me is just like, why not go back to just doing the normal seeding process, or even like fully taking USAU out of it and just going straight off the algorithm, because it already randomizes it, right? Like, to me, this just creates a lot of complexity without necessarily like changing the outcome in a meaningful way. But you know, I guess, what's your thoughts on that? What did the players have to say about just kind of going back to the old method versus this new structure?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's some merit to the old structure, absolutely, and there are people who like that. And we basically trust our national directors to do a fair job. Um, but it for one, it takes longer. It takes a couple of weeks to do that process. And teams like to know who they're playing almost more than they care about who they're playing. What I mean by that is they want to know who their matchups are so they can start prepping, as opposed to worrying about whether or not it was this team or that. So this is just a much speedier process. And then also there are just some seeding problems. And the one that caught my eye as I was looking at all of these past few years was last year's mixed division. Hybrid was easily number one. 2 through 7, they just spent the whole summer beating each other. And I think it was like 89 rating points between Exist and Austin Disco Club.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so if we had done this method last year, those 2 through 7 would be in a bucket together, because that's just how close they were. And what's the best way of doing that? Sorting that out and giving them seats when they're that close. And really, in the end, what needs to happen is they need to play each other at nationals and sort it out there. And so this, I think, is just a little bit more interesting way of doing it. And in the end, when teams are 89 power rating points apart for seeding purposes, let's have a little fun.
I honestly, I think I'm more in support of this than other folks have responded to. Like, I like the idea of like, and we know that the algorithm is not a perfect solution. There isn't one. So we're going to hybridize and use the algorithm as a starting point. And then, say, hey, if these teams are 10 points on the rating scale apart, like, are they really substantially different? Like, is their performance from the season substantially different? Not really. So we might as well go ahead and spin the wheel for them. I think that it keeps some of the excitement and acknowledges an actual reality of how we're grading these teams to set up these seedings as is appropriate here, without kind of throwing the whole regular season out the window. So I'm curious to see how this solution is actually going to play out and how teams are going to respond to it. I mean, was there any from this random draw process? Was there some positive feedback coming from teams as well, or was it mostly just like, hey, we don't get it?
Actually, I don't actually get all that much feedback from the teams. It's the national directors that hear both the good and the bad. I think what the teams like the most is that we are able to turn it around pretty quickly. Basically, once regionals are done, we can do the draw within a couple days. We just have to make sure the scores are right, so that the ratings are right, and then we can do it. As opposed to the old method, where they're waiting to maybe less than 2 weeks before nationals before they knew who they're playing. So I think that was the big positive for the teams. And it did cause a little weirdness at times, and I think that was the negative that the national directors heard a little bit. But we didn't hear a whole lot of screaming about it. And I do think most of the national teams in the end, they just want to go win their games. So I think my sense, and maybe I'm wrong, is the public cares more about this than the teams do. Obviously, they don't want a really bad seeding arrangement. The 1 seed wouldn't want to get the 2 seed in the pool play, but beyond that, they want to go win their game.
Another big change in this year's guidelines is the piloting of a new pre-sectionals regionals qualifier. So for very large sections where there's a lot of teams, like DC Metro, for instance, uh, you can there'll be an invitation for the top 6-ish teams, maybe a little bit more than that, for them to play in this qualifying tournament that will have a certain number of bids to go directly to regionals without having to play sectionals. So this is not the free buy that you get if you're a nationals team that plays in your required tournaments, but it's a way of not having to go to sectionals to earn your bid. So I guess, what's the idea behind this change, and how exactly is this going to play out in terms of how many bids they get and how many teams are invited, or are those details still being determined?
Well, first, the why. Used to be with these large sections, we had all kinds of formats. The problem was that those formats often called for 8 or 9 games, and we're not doing 8 or 9 games in a weekend anymore. So the formats working group came up with another solution where we take these large sections and we artificially divide them into 2. And that works from a pure formats perspective, but it's not the greatest on the ground way of doing things, because you're taking, Metro DC and artificially creating 2 sections. You may not end up playing your close rival. So it's somewhat unsatisfying. So we redrew a lot of sections, and for places like, say, Minnesota, Wisconsin, it's easy. Minnesota's one section, Wisconsin's the other section, no problem. That doesn't work in DC or the Bay Area. It's just too dense. You can't draw a line. We try to. It helped a little bit with Central Appalachia, but it just doesn't work. So we want to try something that kind of meets the goals of sectionals, being hyper local. I mean, that's relative, of course. Was the West can't be local all that much, but try to be local. Try to have easy access to it, and make it something that's very, very doable. But to solve the large section problem, we need to peel off some teams to go to regionals, so that the sectional event itself is 16 or fewer teams. So that's the goal. We just want to say, hey, teams, here's something local, hopefully fun, hopefully competitive, that will fit into your schedule, and you get a bid to regionals by winning on the field, and you no longer have to go to sectionals for 2 days. And our hope, of course, is that these will be the top 4, 6, 8 teams out of regionals. But candidly, from a formats perspective, we just need to peel off some teams so that we don't have 17, 18, 19 teams at section. So we want it to be attractive to the regional teams. We want to attract top select and select teams. And we want to reward them for being good programs by getting them to regionals. But the primary goal is to peel off some teams and get them to regional, so we don't have that huge sectional event that just doesn't work very well.
It's good to get an explanation, because I know I was pretty confused by like what the intentions of this event really were, like what problem you were solving for. So I appreciate you being able to explain that, because it was a bit confusing for me, certainly, and I imagine that was true for other folks. I want to kind of turn back to nationals for a moment, because there is one thing I think that Charlie and I have probably banged. I'm sorry, Charlie, you have something?
I just want to follow up before we switch
ahead.
topics, unless this is okay. My question basically is, what's the actual mechanic of this tournament? So if you're inviting the top X teams, right? Let's say it's 6. You're not going to give all 6 of them a bid, but all 6 of those teams might ultimately be expected to make it, right, to regionals. But so is it going to be like, at most, some of those teams are probably not going to qualify and then be forced to play at sectionals? Is that the right idea?
Yes. So
okay.
Initially, if you play in this event and you win it, you do get a bid to regionals, no matter what happens with sectionals. Because as you know, sectional size can vary. It can go from 14 to 18 just based on, whether or not youth teams or masters teams want to sign up, whether or not there's a pickup team that comes in. So we don't know how big that sectional is going to be until the 28th of August, right? So we're guaranteeing that if you win this event, you get a bid. But at the same time, we're going to play out all the places. So if we have a 6-team event, we're going to play out 1 through 6. And if we end up with an 18-team sectional, we're going to take the top 2. And even though you didn't win, you finished second, you now get that bid to regional so we can peel you off.
I see.
Which is not, if you're familiar with the formats, not all that dissimilar to what happens on Saturday in a large section. On Saturday in a large section, we often have peeled off, if there's 7 bids, we have peeled off 4 of them on Saturday, and they've already qualified and they're just playing for seeding on Sunday. Whereas the next however many teams are playing for those last 3 spots on Sunday. So this is just kind of taking that Saturday concept and moving it, 3 weeks ahead of time. And we're going to say, we'll peel off 1, 2, or 3 of the top teams and send them on.
Charlie, you have anything additional on that?
Nope,
I
good.
don't want to.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask Mark, because Charlie and I have talked so much about one of the things that we really want to see changed at nationals, or we hope that we can achieve one day, is having the biggest games at night, like under the lights. It just brings a different environment, and we know during semifinals when we get into that part of the calendar, it brings some of the best, most exciting ultimate that we see. And then finals often can be much less exciting in the sense that you got a less energized crowd, less drama, and sometimes the games end up feeling a little more dry. Is there a way that we may see the club championship finals happening under the lights in the future?
How far out in the future are we talking about? So the primary problem is that we are still essentially in amateur sports where people have to work on Monday. And so finals are timed so that people can, get out of Dodge and get home. Many players can stay an extra day and fly out the next day, but lots of teams, especially if they're younger teams, those people have to get back to work. And so that's really the basis of timing on all our events, is trying to get out of Dodge in time and get to the airport and get home. So that's the big holdup from a pure scheduling point of view. If at some point, we become the NCAA and have $1 billion industry, that could be different. But we're still an amateur sport where people are going home to work on Monday. So,
let's see. I'm going to start taking some questions from the Discord because we got a lot of great questions from subscribers. Let's see. Where do I want to start? Is USA Ultimate happy with the current system where they provide the only most competitive regular season tournaments? So, USAU runs US Open, has a hand, obviously, in the other Triple Crown Tour events, but the rest of the, club season is really just run by either teams or individual organizers. Do you like this model as it has been kind of run for the last 10 years or so?
I think as an organization, I think it runs pretty well. The top teams in the country are guaranteed quality events against quality opponents. Something that doesn't always happen or didn't always happen in the past before we had the TCT. So I think that's a very important component. We do partner with local organizations all the time to run these events. Yes, US Open, we have a lot of influence on it and basically run it, but we work with our local partner here in Colorado for it right now, Altitude Ultimate, and they're a great partner. And so there's that local component of it. And that's true of all the major events. I think it works pretty well for us as a national governing body, and I think it also works for our local partners. And the other events, have the opportunity to bid on these events and work with us and run dual branded events. Hasn't happened much lately while I've been the competition manager, but that was not at all uncommon earlier on.
Going to another question from the Discord. Just how do you feel like? How are you feeling about the participation numbers? What are we seeing as a trend in club right now, especially looking at the different divisions? And obviously the pandemic had a big effect on participation, but how is from USA Ultimate's perspective? Are those numbers looking right now?
So we've very, very focused on participation numbers. Men's division has popped back. Mixed initially popped back, had a slight decline last year, and the women's division has been somewhat stagnant. That actually goes back pre-COVID, with the women's division being pretty flat for a long period of time. And we are actually piloting a program, or starting a program this year, where we're actually funding some initiatives with local affiliates to try to grow participation in the women's division. We're funding 7 initiatives with local orgs. I don't know if I can name them off the top of my head, but Detroit, Nickel City, Maine, Vermont, Charlottesville. I'm forgetting a couple, but we're investing $15,000 in those 7 affiliates to try to grow women's division ultimate specifically. We're running about 250 teams in men's and mixed, and around 90 to 100 in women's, and we'd like to narrow that gap. So the board has approved putting some money behind it, and we've got a 5-year project to try to grow women's division ultimate. So I'm very excited about it. We have a national women's growth director now, joining our other 3 national directors with just that sole focus. So hopefully we see some real growth in that division.
One of the complaints that I feel like I have about the club season is that while the very top tier events are really well run, club nationals, US Open in particular, it can feel like the rest of it is a little bit of an afterthought. And that includes regionals, which to me is like, for most teams, the end of their season, the pinnacle of the year for them, and only very, very small subset of teams actually get to qualify for the national championships. And yet regionals is often, it can be underwhelming. I mean, it varies a lot in terms of like who the organizing group is in each region. I'm just wondering if you've given thought to this issue, or if you even agree with me, and like how you can make regionals feel like a bigger deal, because it seems to me that if you want people to play Club Ultimate, you got to give them a reason to play Club Ultimate. Like, not everybody's going to be at that top level of competitiveness where they're trying to go to nationals, or they do go to nationals. And for the rest, like, how do you convince them to want to play if you're not giving the same attention to those teams that are further down the competitiveness spectrum?
It sounds like you've been a part of our club working group meetings, because this has been a topic the past couple of years.
I installed hidden cameras, so it's,
we are very, very sensitive to classic flight teams need to have quality events. We absolutely agree with that. We also absolutely agree regionals need to be high quality events. On the one hand, I will say, compared to when I started as a sectional coordinator back in the noughts, quality across the board is much higher than it was back then, but still not to the level that it could be. So I think as an organization, we're making progress. People need to know that you get those event quality surveys. Yes, we do look at them. Yes, we do provide tournament directors feedback. Yes, we do provide them some guidance and suggestions. And we take that information quite seriously, and we try to implement things. But to a certain extent, we're also just reliant on the quality of local orgs and their capacity to run events and their access to quality fields. So there's lots of things that are somewhat beyond our control in the moment, but that we can look at in the long term. sometimes a facility just turns out not to be good enough. We don't know that when the regional is happening, but we can say to the local org, we're not going to have regionals there anymore because that facility just doesn't work. So I understand the frustration. If I'm playing regionals, I want it to be a quality event. And we do pay attention to that. But, candidly, sometimes we fall short, and then we work to improve and get better at it.
One of the other questions we got from the Discord was about, because you mentioned the club working group, Mark, the most recent updates, and I think the update even prior, discussed a little bit the potential of an academy model, which it sounds like perhaps led into some of the ideas that you were just discussing around supporting the growth through initiatives for women's division development. But can you talk more about what that academy model looks like and what those discussions have entailed?
A lot of the discussions have entailed a lot of discussion. It is one of those things that in higher concept, it's like, oh, this should be easy to do. This should be easy to implement. And then when you start getting into the brass tacks, how are you going to bring this off in a way that is not easy to manipulate and to affect things like rankings and things like that? The devil's in the details. That's what we have found. So this last December, we basically set it aside for now. There are many things in the proposal that we received. The proposal we initially received came from New England that we think are very doable. So we are actually working on a primer right now to put out to teams. The goal is to have it out by April 1 of how do you do things to form new teams, be connected, those sorts of things. But I don't think the idea of an academy is going to go away forever, but we just have not found a way to do it to make it work in a fair way across the board. So for now, it's been sort of set aside.
Let's see. Other things that people have asked about, which maybe can be a little quicker. Wet bulb globe temperature. Heat delays and cancellations have been a thing the last couple of seasons. I wrote an article about this if people want more details on kind of the background of why this exists. One of the things, though, that USAU doesn't use, but that is used in some other sports and some other states, is regionally based temperature guidelines for wet bulb. So depending on, if you live in the north versus you live in Florida, there's different thresholds because bodies are more acclimated to high temperatures if you live in high temperature areas. Any sense of whether that would be changed this year and that you would alter the thresholds based on regionality?
I doubt it. This comes out of, we have a medical working group. People may not know that. People, they're actually doctors and do the research and look at what, don't do the research, look at the research and looks to see what are best practices. And I have not heard any suggestion from that group that we should go regionality. And one of the issues with that is, let's just take an example. Southeast as a region, Florida to Tennessee. So they might be playing in Florida for regionals. Do you base it on Florida? Do you base it on Tennessee? And many of our events are national scale events. So if anything, I think the impetus might be to be more consistent across the country where everybody's doing it the same way. Because we got some complaints last year and from both ends that we were being too strict with the heat guidelines, and also we were not being strict enough, that they're too loose. So I think right now we'll probably be looking to be more consistent about it. And then if the medical working group comes back and says, hey, we've looked at the research and it needs to change, that's when it would change.
Another thing that I noticed from the club working group notes when I was kind of going back through them was the potential for some new formats, maybe during the regular season, during some of the early TCT events. There was some talk about Swiss straw potentially. Do you think we're going to see any new formats experimented with in some of these early club season events?
Not for 2026. There's a big call for Swiss straw. We haven't quite sorted out how to make that work for a TCT event yet. And if we were to do it, I would imagine it would probably be early season, like Pro Elite would be a place we might try it. But
why not just do it?
Well,
I could just say you could just do things. This is a popular phrase on the internet right now. Like, I don't know, Swiss straw is not that hard. You just put it in the computer and you do it.
Yeah.
Why do we have to wait?
Well, we should probably know at least how to do it well. And
call the Europeans. They do it every time.
We'll get the European club manager to come teach me how to do it, and then we'll do it.
There you go. I mean, I feel like we got 3 months to figure it out. There's no reason you couldn't do it this year. Email me. We'll work it out. All you need is an extra 15 minutes between rounds. It's really not that complicated.
Yeah, there you go.
Charlie is volunteering to run the tournament, I'm pretty sure.
Listen, you want me to help with the schedule? I'll do it. I like building schedules. Okay, but next year maybe? I don't know. I guess, Mark, my thing is that I feel like USAU has these ideas. They get talked about. You have a meeting. You have another meeting. You say, well, this is a good idea, but next year. And I feel like we get that a lot. I feel like it's like a lot of next year we'll do it instead of just doing it. And it can be a little frustrating to me because it's like, why don't we just try to make these changes? And if it goes badly, you know what? That's okay. Like sometimes you're going to make mistakes, but like the level of conservativeness about making alterations to the schedule or to things, it seems so everyone's afraid to like make one team mad. I don't know. I just feel like we don't make progress as a result.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been afraid to make one team mad, and I can point to some teams that would definitely tell you that they were mad at me. But I do think, from my own perspective, if I'm going to do something as a competition manager that's going to have some impact on things like rankings and bids and all that kind of stuff, I want to make sure I'm doing it right before I do it. And we're more than willing to pilot stuff. I mean, look at pre-sectionals. That's a pretty radical change to things. We're going to pilot it. We're going to try it out. We may make mistakes. We also know we didn't. And so for something like Swiss straw, the player reps, at least one player rep really wants us to do it. And the other ones don't seem opposed. So, yeah, we can probably do it in the not too distant future. I just don't know that you can. I don't want to promise you for 2026. That may be more than I have time to do well.
I'm going to send you an email. I honest to God am. I'm going to tell you exactly how I got it done. It's I'll look at the formats from last year and I'll look at the round times and I will come up with it. I promise. And you can take it or leave it, but let's. But I believe in you, Mark. I believe in you. All right. Let's see. One or two more here. Thank you for all the time you're giving us today. If you look ahead, let's say 5 years or 10 years, like what looks like a really healthy club ecosystem to you? Like, are there things that you'd like to see kind of working a little bit better or changed? And how do we get people playing more Ultimate and growing the divisions?
Yeah. I do think the strategic plan kind of is giving us our roadmap for that, and that is building capacity at the local level. Everything has to be grassroots, and that's capacity at the local level builds. Just your previous question, if we have more capacity in local orgs to run quality regionals, we end up with quality regionals, which just builds on itself and creates that environment where people want to play because they know it's a high quality event. They know sectionals are a high quality event. They know that July tournament that they're going to is going to be a good event. So it's by building that capacity to do those sorts of things that ecosystem grows and becomes more vibrant and more alive. I think when you look at our women's growth project, it is to build capacity to find women players, interest women players, keep them around, have them grow from local league players to people who go to sectionals, people who might qualify for regionals. You grow it from the ground up. So I think that's the template in our strategic plan, and I think that's what the next 5 years is going to look like. And same with all the youth initiatives you see out there. It's all with the idea of you start at the bottom, you grow the base, and the entire sport benefits from that. So I think it's a great plan, and that's what the next 5 years is going to look like.
Might I suggest getting all of those people Ulti-World subscriptions?
Keith, you got another? Or should I go?
No, do you have one? I think there might be one or two left here.
I have one more that I wanted to ask about, which is schedules and setting schedules further in advance. This one kind of comes to my mind because in the disc golf world, we often have a major schedule at least 2 years out, if not even 3 or sometimes 4 years out for like the biggest tournaments. And to an extent, we have that in Ultimate, right? Because we know usually that we have multi-year contracts for things like US Open and Club Nationals. But the Triple Crown Tour schedule, while it did come out earlier this year than I think it maybe ever has, we often aren't really getting it until the year of the events themselves. And I'd be curious to know if there's thoughts on trying to get these cycles done more quickly so that you're announcing, for instance, the 2027 Triple Crown Tour schedule fully finalized at Club Nationals, for instance. Like, maybe not a full year in advance, but many months. Like, there's not necessarily a waiting period before this is happening. So, just kind of trying to get out in front a little bit more. Has that been discussed?
Not just discussed, but that's what we've been trying to move towards. It is not easy often because we are often waiting on bids, fields access, those sorts of things. Lots of quality sites will not, may not come under contract for 2 years or 3 years at a time. So building those relationships is hard. But it's definitely, I think, in everybody's interest. This year took a lot of heavy lifting to get it out as early as we did. But I would much rather be announcing right now, 2027, if I could.
Right.
I think that's, as a long-term goal, or even not even that long a term of a goal, the more we can announce, the sooner, the better for everybody. And my national directors will laugh at this, but I want to announce so people can plan their weddings around our events.
That's real.
It is real.
It's very real. It's literally real. Literally, teams have had to send random people from the street to go as their team to tournaments because everyone's at the wedding. All right, Mark, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Are you going to be at any of the big international tournaments this year? You stay in U.S. side?
I am, for the first time in a couple of years, staying in the U.S. the whole summer.
All right.
Yep.
I'm sure that's going to be nice.
Yeah. Little bit different from the past couple of years. China, Australia, Colombia, been the traveler. So,
awesome. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it, and looking forward to the club season.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got some college ultimate chatter. We'll catch up on a few things Mark talked about, and some Western Ultimate League Week 1. We'll talk about it next.
to the edge. Now you think I see you more than a friend. Better late than never. Now it's all over me. These reflections of you. Who you want me to be? Do I wanna be you? Is it only a dream?
Welcome back to Deep Look. Thanks again to Marc Zigterman for coming on, talking about Club Ultimate stuff. Keith, you got any reacts to what we heard from Marc?
Well, it's interesting to hear, and it's interesting to hear that they are working with doing some new programming to develop growth in the women's division. I think we've all seen that has been a sore spot in the club landscape. A little odd that this is the first time it feels like we're hearing anything about it. So I had that reaction. I was like, why is this not known? But good to hear that it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got to be multifaceted effort. You need to make it easier for people to get into the club ecosystem, and you have to make it rewarding for them to play the tournaments. Like, it's a lot of effort to play club, right? Even if you're on a non-practicing team, you got to take weekends and go play tournaments. You want those tournaments to be high quality. You want people to have a really good time. You want the end of season tournaments like sectionals and regionals to be really rewarding for people. Otherwise, maybe they play once and then they don't play again. And I think there's been not enough emphasis on ensuring quality across the club tournament landscape. And, I appreciate Marc acknowledging sometimes we haven't done a good enough job with regionals. I basically feel that they need to do more direct effort on this. I'm not saying they need to run all the regionals themselves. It's probably not realistic that the national org is going to run, 8 tournaments on one weekend across the entire country. But, and it's maybe also not enough just to hope that you get feedback from players in a survey. It almost needs to be a better technological solution where it's like rating an Airbnb, where you get the email, you click the stars, you rate the tournament in a bunch of categories, and it's easy, and you can give quick 3-4 minute feedback and not have some brutally long Google form that nobody wants to fill out, but I just think about what makes people want to play. It's the community of their team, enjoying the competition, and getting a good experience from the events that you travel to. And I don't think Club Ultimate is in a bad place, but it's also feels kind of it's been in the same spot for a long time, and we haven't really taken these we haven't taken opportunities to advance the division.
And that sounds like it's the case from the participation numbers, that we're in a kind of a state of stagnancy.
So I hope that they want to try some stuff. And Marc's right, the pre-tournament, pre-sectionals, regionals qualifier. I'm never going to say that.
PSRQ.
Right.
PSRQ, Charlie.
That is the kind of bold effort that is cool, but that's such a limited scope that affects 3 or 4 sections. I think it's a good idea to try it, and we'll see how it goes. But they can do more stuff. I feel like they have endless conversations about these various topics of note, and then nobody ever wants to actually implement the changes. And it's just easier to say, well, maybe next year, and let's just do it the same way we've always done it. But that's what we've been doing for a decade. So I would love to see them try to improve things more faster. Okay, let's get into the rest of the show. Goaltimate Nationals is coming up this weekend. It's in Austin. Well, technically Round Rock, north of Austin. It's probably going to be a little breezy. It's a little breezy in Austin in the spring. It's going to be hot. It's going to be north of 90 degrees this weekend. But Keith, it's always fun. We're going to be live streaming. You can enjoy the coverage with an Ulti World subscription or the Goaltimate Nationals event pack. We'll put a link in the description. And we got some cool new stuff this year. We're going to add a new like fisheye camera lens to the goal scoring area. And we're going to have to do a little bit of experimentation with whether we can mount it from the top of the goal or if we're going to have to go from the base. Just depends on, we can't have anything hanging into the goal area because obviously that would impact play. So we're working on camera mounting options and getting that all sorted out, but it should offer a really cool new view of Goaltimate along with drone and multiple cameras. So this is our biggest production yet.
And this is the kind of thing you're talking about, right? Just trying stuff out, see what works. Also, I thought when you said they're doing something new, I believe they're doing Swiss Draw this year, right? Speaking of Swiss Draw,
they are doing Swiss Draw.
Did I read that correctly? Well, there you go.
You sure did. Well, the beauty of Swiss Draw is that you get harder games faster, or maybe I should say more appropriate games faster. Rather than having, a really strong team in a pool where they just crush everybody. I don't know what good Goaltimate score line is. Like, let's say 10-1. That's a beatdown. I know that. You're going to get to playing the teams at your level quite a bit more quickly. And that's a really good thing. I think it's a good thing for early USAU tournaments too, where, winning Pro Elite Challenge in June is not really like, you don't need a classic tournament structure for that. It's okay. You really want to just play good games, play varied teams, and play teams at your level so that you can start to make those good comparisons between like teams at different tiers.
Right. I know that your true passion for Goaltimate comes from the success of Albuquerque last season.
Oh yeah.
I think they made the semifinals. So the Albuquerque community showing out.
Listen, Albuquerque, we got those alt sports on lock. The Albuquerque Guts team was like the U.S. national team for a while there. They play all kinds of crazy games. Cower, Goldy, go Albuquerque.
So I'm looking forward to seeing. I know we won't have a traditional streaming schedule because of the format. You can't really plan out the games when the games aren't actually set yet. So you just have to trust you're going to get good games every round.
Yeah, you get good games quickly because we'll be covering, the higher seeded teams, like the winning, 2-0 teams games. So we'll get great games starting right away on Saturday and then on to the bracket on Sunday. So make sure you tune in this weekend for Goaltimate Nationals. Stanford Invite Men's took place this past weekend. Keith, Santa Cruz did what they needed to do. They showed me what I wanted to see. They went out there, they took care of business, they dominated, and they look like a team that's going to be in the hunt for a semi spot at Nationals.
13-10 in the final over UBC was their only game that was within 5 goals all weekend. So yeah, they controlled things in the way that you want to. That UBC game was pretty tight in the first half, but they pulled away in the second. Impressed by UBC getting to the final. They're playing on a back-to-back weekend. Had some drama in the semifinals against Wisconsin, but did what they needed to do. And Wisconsin, another team you got to give credit to. They lose on Universe to UBC in a dramatic, kind of disappointing fashion, but did good work in the rankings. They will hang around, and they're currently holding on to a strength bid for the North Central, which we've noted is all but essential for these non-Carleton teams to feel like they have a really good shot at Nationals.
Great game there between UBC and Wisconsin. Both teams looking like they're going to earn bids, Keith. Wisconsin does have another tournament coming up, so we'll see what happens there. But solid bounce back from a Wisconsin team that's kind of been in the wilderness for a few years. And they were right there with UBC in semis, losing 11-10. But pretty nice to see them playing as well as they have been this year.
Yeah, they're not out of the woods, like you said, but 21 games in and you're still above the cut line is going to insulate you a little bit. And there are multiple regions around them that could slip. The Northwest, however, we talked about UBC. The Northwest, their grip on 5 bids feels very secure right now because even if one of these teams falls out, there are multiple contenders from the Northwest just outside of the cutoff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I
And
think
this is all without
it seems like
BYU.
an assured 5 bids for Northwest at this point. It's actually also good for Wisconsin because if they drop down below Washington at the 19th right now, that doesn't hurt them, right? They still get the bid because Northwest is capped at the 5. So they'd have to fall below UCLA, who's sitting at 1842 in the projected rankings. Wisconsin about 80 points ahead of that, almost 100 points. So it would take like kind of a collapse at Easterns.
Shout out to me for getting the picks right though. You guys all had you and the subs had Santa Cruz over Wisconsin. I had Santa Cruz over
I
UBC.
believe.
So
I mean, it was obviously extremely close. So
yeah, I mean,
but yes, credit to
yeah,
you, Keith. Credit to
very
you.
close. Thank you.
What else from this weekend? I mean, Tulane looked pretty good. I feel like I don't know if there's enough there for them to get out to nationals, but they're going to be punchy at regionals. Can't take them lightly.
A lot of punchy teams in the Southeast regionals. I don't think it's going to be an easy path for potentially Georgia Tech, who is going to be the favorite. But I don't think that the region really has a chance at getting a second bid. So it's going to be can Georgia Tech survive the gauntlet? Because with Tulane and Georgia and Tennessee, looking punchy, it could be a challenging road.
I just want to go back to something from the chat. Max says second tier teams might feel bummed out or less incentivized to attend a top tournament if Swiss format means they might not get reps against some of the top dogs. All in all, regular season club is getting tough to motivate teams, I feel. Max has played at the highest level. I that's true about Swiss. I think the teams that are going to Pro Elite are already good and are going to be getting good competition either way. Maybe if you're talking about like Elite Select, that might be more of an ask, but I don't feel like they're talking about doing Swiss at all of these tournaments, mostly just like the very early season ones. And I think it's like a fair question of like, when should you have traditional pools versus doing something like Swiss? But just wanted to call that out. I don't know what you do about the regular season not having enough punch. I mean, we've talked about ideas, but you got to be willing to take a swing if you're USAU, if you want to change up how the regular season is looked at.
I mean, it and USAU can't control for, I think, one of the things that is challenging for the regular season, which is that the best teams are the best teams year in and year out, and often it's pretty obvious which ones those are. There's nothing really US Ultimate can do about that.
Let's take a look at the projected rankings as they stand following the men's Stanford Invite and heading into kind of the big end of season majors. We've got Northwest Challenge Women's, we've got Eastern's Men's. We have a very important East Coast Invite as well in 2 weeks that could swing some bids. Here's how things look in the men's division. As mentioned, Wisconsin and UBC both hanging in there towards the back end of the rankings. Texas moves up to 18th. They have the second bid for the South Central. Keith, for the most part, it seems like the Southwest with UCLA is like going to hope that one of these other teams falls below them, right? I mean, I don't know what else is really going to change at this point.
I mean, just another year with one of these Southwest teams praying the bid math works out and hoping that some last minute error doesn't change things against them. Maybe it'll actually work out in their favor this time. But why is it always some Southwest team that's right at the borderline here?
It's classic. I guess I'm trying to remember, is NC State going to Easterns? They got to be playing something else. They only have 6 games. They're going to be hoping to make a move. They're at 1796 and 24th right now. It would be a lot to ask. They'd have to have a really, really strong final tournament. All right, let's look at the women's side. And obviously, we could have a lot change this weekend. with the Northwest Challenge, where we've got a lot of top teams in attendance. And let's see here. We'll wait for the screenshot to update. Carleton sitting at number 1 overall, undefeated, of course, and pretty much seems like a lock for 5-bid Northwest and Southwest, because even if one of those teams drops out, same kind of situation. You've got Cal Poly sitting down at 19. What stands out here, Keith?
Oh, there were some interesting moves, kind of like mid-weekend here, but Tennessee and James Madison, right near the border. Now Tennessee's holding the strength bid for the Southeast, and there's not really any other team. Georgia only has 13 games; they're 28, so maybe. But I think that the Southeast is destined to get one bid. But Tennessee finishing, near in the top 20 in the rankings would be an interesting wrinkle, but just purely from a narrative standpoint. Meanwhile, you've got James Madison with this 6-0. They're in a bubble with the AC second bid, but not all bubbles burst. So I don't know what will happen with them. Obviously they got to get to 10 games, so they're going to need to play another tournament anyway. But that you always want to keep an eye on these teams, because sometimes these oddities can turn into a real thing. We've certainly seen it before. So something that at least my eye is drawn to, seeing these kind of two teams without the big reputation or the big programmatic success being right around the cut line, because they could factor into the conversation in some way.
Well, Northwest Challenge is going to be exciting. Carleton, UBC, Stanford, Colorado, Tufts, Washington, UNC, and then you go down to UVic at the 10th. But that's all top 10 teams that I just named. And they're all in attendance. And pretty much everybody's very strong. I mean, the bottom 3 are Vermont, who, of course, underperformed, but probably is a little bit better than being ranked number 22. And then Michigan and BYU. So it's absolutely stacked up tournament, and a chance to swing, not just, it may be less important from a bids perspective and more important from a seeding at nationals perspective. Some of these teams trying to make that final case to get a higher seed.
Indeed. I mean, obviously you got a lot of West Coast teams. We're going to get some great connectivity. We're going to find out a lot more about Tufts as they travel for the first time. We've only seen them at Queen City Tune-Up. And so it's time to find out what these teams can do, because this will be a trial run for Tufts. UNC has played 2 tournaments, but we haven't seen them play a lot of the best competition yet. And this will be a chance, because that Vermont team, they are the one team I think that really could swing the bid picture with results, but they are coming off a rough Stanford Invite. This is do or die for them.
Yeah, they're going to have to try to catch JMU, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say with JMU, because they're so volatile. Like they could move a lot. They could potentially move just on connectivity.
Right. And they only have 6 games right now. So going to be a fascinating weekend. Keith, over under Tufts finishes over under 3.5
at the tournament standings.
4.5. Yeah. At Northwest Challenge.
With over being that they do better than that, or that they feel, or under being that they finish even better.
I understand why it's confusing. I think under would be an improvement, like a lower number than 3.5 finish. Okay. So that would be better.
I'm going to take the under. Give me the Tufts belief. I believe the Tufts can come out and show out.
All right. That means they probably have to finish ahead of one of Carleton, UBC, Stanford. Colorado also ranked ahead of them right now. So we'll see what happens. I like them over Colorado, which is why I gave you 3.5. Let's talk a little bit more about the Northwest Challenge. Actually, you know what? Yeah, you know what? We're already talking about it. Let's stay here. Let's do Northwest Challenge. We don't have pools. We don't have a streaming schedule for you. We still haven't been given any information from the tournament about what the pools are, what the schedule is. So sorry. We kind of just have to go with what we expect. Probably 4 pools of 3 would be what to expect. Carleton's certainly going to be the 1 seed, UBC the 2, then Stanford, and we'll probably get that Colorado Tufts matchup in pool play.
Are you sure? I mean, I guess if you're doing it by the algorithm, Stanford is going to be the 3 seed, but they have a head-to-head win over UBC. So
You know what? That's a fair point.
they could
I
they
I,
could
I
they could be
wouldn't.
the 2 seed. Not that it's
It could be the 2 seed.
substantially different.
I don't think it really changes anything about pool play or really much.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes the quarters a little different, but you'd still expect to see a UBC Stanford semifinal if things go to seed.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of wondering what we're going to see from the lineup. Are we going to see Mika Kurahashi playing the full workload for UBC? We haven't really seen that this season. Obviously, we're talking about one of the best players in the all of college ultimate, a world class talent. Like makes a big difference. I think UBC has also shown that they are good enough to win without her. Uh, maybe they're not. Maybe they're not quite good enough to beat Carleton or a full strength Stanford, but they are still very good. So I think we really want to see if we're going to get a chance to see that version of UBC at this tournament because with Mika now we get to really start to assess. Okay, are we still talking about just Carleton and UBC? Is UBC in the tier with Carleton? Are there more teams in the tier with Carleton? Some of those questions need to get answered.
I agree. I think it is possible we come away from this tournament feeling like Carleton is in a league of their own and that UBC is actually in tier 2. It's possible. But I'm going to give them a pretty hefty pass for the results sans Mika. So let's see what happens this weekend and how much she plays. She is expected to get back onto the field and compete at the Northwest Challenge. All right, Keith, let's make some picks here, huh? Are you just going to take Carleton, take this whole thing?
I got my semifinals picks here, Charlie. I'm going to go with Carleton. I'm going to take UBC. I'm going to take Stanford. I think they've more than proven that they are legit. I know there's a sour taste in people's mouths after the way they performed against Santa Cruz in the final of Stanford Invite, but for a lot of the rest of the weekend, they looked the part. And my fourth team, Charlie, I'm going to take Tufts. I'm a believer in this Tufts team. With what we've seen from Washington and Colorado and UNC, like it's not that bold a branch to walk out on. But I think that this is a team that has so many different components of being a winner. They're deep, they're experienced, they've got one of the best throwers, they've got some really fantastic athletes downfield. They're well coached. This team feels like to me that they could deliver. I'm taking Tufts to semis, and I genuinely considered even trying to take them to the finals, but I think I'm going to stick with the script here. I'm going to take the Hollywood ending. I'm taking Carleton and UBC in the finals, and I'm going to go with Mika and UBC take down Carleton and add some spice to the season.
Ooh, I like it, Keith.
Give us really build the rivalry narrative between the two.
I want to believe, but I don't. I've got semis. I've got Carleton, UBC, Stanford Tufts. I think they're going to prove to be the class here.
No belief in UNC?
No. I mean, they're a good team,
Washington?
just not at the top level. No. I mean,
I'm surprised we ended up.
Why am I supposed to believe in Washington? Why am I supposed to believe in Washington? They've given me no reason.
You see them last year? It's like the same people.
Let's see them tighten it up. I mean, I'll be a lot more open to picking them far at nationals if they show me something this weekend. I mean, again, they're good. They're going to make quarters, and they're probably going to lose in quarters. But they haven't been close to the top tier. So Carleton, UBC, Stanford Tufts. I've got Carleton, UBC in the final, but I definitely have Carleton winning this thing. If they lose, it's going to be at nationals.
We'll see if Stanford has anything to say about this grudge match, or maybe it's hard not to be tantalized by the ceiling of Washington. I want to see their defense come out and just take over a game. With the defensive personnel they have, I just feel like they could go out there and just beat somebody bad. But I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it to happen.
All right, where is my bar of soap? Is this week's subscriber picker? That's a little spicy, Keith. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready for some spice.
Same 4 semis teams. Okay, Stanford versus UBC. Stanford zone stymies a Mika-less UBC to push to finals. So Stanford over UBC. Carleton versus Tufts. Carleton comes off an absolute slog of a win over a UNC team that plays up to them. Tufts wins in a dogfight. So a Stanford Tufts final, windy. Tufts wind, throwing over Stanford's zone. Stanford offensive handler core commits too many turnovers, and Tufts downfield D shuts down Sage McGinley Smith. Tufts wins the whole thing.
Wow. That's super bold. That would
Some
be that
Tufts
would
fan fiction
really,
right there.
really change the story going into nationals. But you know, if you close your eyes and you see a windy final, you can't see Leah Schwartz just slinging that thing for a win. I could see it. I'm not picking it, but I could see it.
I personally think Stanford zone is in a quite a bit better spot to win a windy game than Tufts' offense, but we will see how it all shakes out at Northwest Challenge. We'll be covering this tournament live. Watch the streams all weekend long at ultiworld.com/live, and we'll look forward to having you there. So just get yourself a subscription. Standard or all access will get you access to the games, both from Northwest Challenge and from Goaltimate Nationals. So tons of Frisbee streaming this weekend across the country. All right, Keith, the UFA jerseys just dropped for the 2026 season, and the chatter has understandably coalesced around the alternate Boston Glory jersey. Let's take a look at this. For those who are listening on the podcast version and not watching on YouTube,
What are you doing?
how would I describe this? Psychedelic rainbow like drip jersey. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it's like it's got like kind of like a like psychedelic like geometric patterns, those kind of like layered
Yeah.
rainbow colored patterns where it's like outlined. But then
Are they going to
I
wear
think
these
it's
in games?
I think it's important to acknowledge that the pattern exists, and then just smashed on top of it is the Glory logo and numbers. So it's like, you know, it's like when you go to a fair and they have some crazy combination of food that like actually is abhorrent. You're like, hey, we took this pizza and we just took a hot dog and just
Deep
slammed
fried
it
Oreos on top
there.
of the pizza.
Yeah. And you're like, why? Sure, those two things are fine apart. Why are we doing this together?
Also, white shorts to match. If they wear these on the field, it's going to be an abomination, Keith. This is disaster.
I don't think I hate either set of components separately, but together it's I'm baffled, truly baffled. This was the chatter in the Discord, which if you like talking jersey designs, we have a channel for you in the Discord. The chatter about the general state of UFA kits was not super positive.
Yeah, people seem a little down on the designs this year. You can check out the whole slate over at watchufa.com. So, yeah, I don't know about these, Keith. I feel like if this was just like something you were selling in the store, that's one thing. But for these to be game jerseys, that is not the move.
Maybe there's some sort of embedded like hypnotic effect or subliminal messaging in here that's like going to give them a competitive edge. Like if somebody's kind of deep and you're looking at them, you're just like start losing your balance or something. I don't know.
I feel like there's just too many jerseys that are like going in the wrong direction that are like aren't better. Like it would be better just to keep the same ones or like make some subtle changes. I don't know. I'm not feeling it either. Max says I can smell them. All right. Western Ultimate League. Keith, what an interesting start to the year. The San Diego Super Bloom smoked the Falcons 22-14. All this hype, preseason hype, Falcons, the dominant team, lose by 8.
I should have had producer Sue cue up me hyping up the Falcons but like put some sort of audio filter over it so it sounds like I'm drunk because it does not look good right now. I mean, the Super Bloom if you just stopped the game at halftime, it would have been a close loss. You know, it was like 10-8 before the Super Bloom ran away from it. But they also were, I think, playing a much stronger game. I mean, they opened with a break. I think it was Lexus Stambaugh who just like absolutely skied somebody in just outside the end zone to set up a break. And the deep game was like just dominated by Super Bloom. I mean, they consistently were getting open deep and getting it to throwers on the run. They skied for a bunch of plays. I think maybe everybody on the freaking team got a block during the game. The Bay Area made a lot of mistakes. Did not quite look on the same page. Shout out Margot Donahue. I thought looked pretty strong. But yeah, this was a pretty stunningly disparate gap between these two teams.
Yeah, I think the question is going to be like, how do the Falcons look playing at home? It's just so hard to travel, and I was trying to find stats. I can't find stats yet. It looks like the stats dashboard on the WO website is not up to date. So I'll be curious to see like points played and lineups and stuff, because I just don't expect this kind of result later. But you know what? Credit to the Super Bloom. Maybe people underlooking the defending champs, and they do have a lot of roster continuity. It's not like Dina Elamelek was the whole team. So really, really strong start for San Diego. The Bay does sneak past LA in the back-to-back 15-12. Going 1-1 on an opening weekend road trip where you have to play the, clearly the next best team in the league. I think you're okay with that if you're Bay Area, but you obviously got to get better from after this game. It's not like it was that close.
Yeah, and shout out Arizona for getting their first win. I think in their last 11 games, got out the schneid and came out and won in their opener. So it looked pretty good doing it. They could be they could be interesting. We'll see what happens when they have to face Seattle in the future. But
Yep.
Charlie, I want to do a pick. I think we should start picking. Let's get some spreads going. Maybe we'll do like a pro pick of the week each week.
Great.
And as the other two leagues get going too, we'll be able to pick kind of our game of the week and set a spread. So I'm going to give you the first line for this new tradition. You ready?
Okay. Ulti-World Sportsbook.
We got the Alpenglow traveling to Seattle for week 2. I'm giving Colorado -1.5 on the road.
Oof, that's a good line, Keith. I'll take the home team. It's hard to win on the road. So it's what, +1.5? Seattle +1.5? I'll take it.
Yeah, Seattle on the points. It's not a lot of points though.
It's not.
I think
Seattle maybe being overly discounted. I mean, Colorado's good, but are they going to send their full team? I think it is often a safe bet to take home dogs in any of the pro leagues, and particularly in the Western Ultimate League.
I'm going to take the other side of this line. I think I'll take Colorado. I think Seattle's got a lot of new pieces, and we just saw how much that affected the Bay. So even if you have good pieces, it can be tough. So I'm going to take Colorado to cover -1.5. Officially going into the picks entries.
All right. We're locking it in. We'll do this every week during the semi-pro seasons. All right. Time for our mailbag question of the week. Keith, what do we got?
Right, this week's question, Charlie. We're talking World Ultimate Club Championships. We're starting to hear some rumors about where some of the Americans are going to be playing. We've got 3 here to compare, Charlie. Which of these 3 ads for European teams is a bigger deal to you? We've got Kayla Helton playing with Shout. We've got Thomas Edmonds playing with Mooncatchers, or Khalif El Salam playing with Padova Rangers.
Oh, I mean, obviously all massive pickups. And there's been a lot of chatter in the Discord about whether these kinds of pickups should be a thing that is allowed. Somebody said they heard a rumor that these are going to go away next year or next cycle. I don't exactly know what that means or whether that's true, but it wouldn't shock me if they put some effort into, making it a little bit harder for European teams to just pick up like some of the best American players. My vote is Kayla. I think Mooncatchers was already going to be a team that was going to be competing at the highest level, and Edmonds obviously makes them better. There's no doubt. But Kayla is like, she's on another level in terms of impact, and I think like could take shout from being like a quarter Z team to being like a knocking on the door of a championship team. So I think that that's a pretty big deal. Kayla makes a massive impact on every single team she plays for. She was arguably the best player on the World Games team.
I'm gonna side with you here. I think also Kayla's ability to handle an absolutely just titanic workload is a big difference maker. Like, she just makes everything so much easier because she can play both ways and play a lot of points, and both be the core part of your offense and take the toughest matchups the other way. That flexibility is really useful. I do think that the other two ads are obviously pretty notable. I think Edmonds fills some nice holes for a super athletic and aggressive Mooncatchers team, but yeah, Kayla just has a superpower that she can bring to these teams.
I got a bonus mailbag question for you, Keith.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm new to playing competitive Goaltimate, what are some of the basic strategies I should know about that differ from Ultimate?
Oh man, we need our Goaltimate expert to jump on. Where's Edward Stevens here? Yeah, we need that Goldy god.
Have you ever you've played some Goldy, Keith? I played Goldy with you.
I have
right?
played Goldy, yes.
Once or twice?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can tackle
definitely.
the question first if you don't want to. I don't think you
I
have
can
to
give
be
I
the,
can give
you
some
know,
thoughts, but
give some thoughts.
well, I mean the
It's a
cutting
very different
patterns
game. It's a very
are
different
very
game.
different. You know, I think understanding the spacing and the cutting around the goal is, to me, one of the hardest elements of switching to Goaltimate. It's like understanding when to like stay in that space or when to attack it and how to do it as a group is, to me, the biggest challenge, because the angles of attack are different, the timing of your attack is different. Uh, I in my head when I'm playing, I feel a lot more like when I played basketball for like how I'm cutting. But
Absolutely.
it's different when the disc can hang a lot longer than a ball can, when you have a way different level of control over it. So it's that part is, to me, one of the biggest challenges, and you have to kind of go into it thinking about or planning for, okay, how do I time my cuts? How do I get out of this space and open it up for my teammates? When do I need to stay in this space to give my thrower options? It's a bit of a different calculus.
I mean, I think there's a few things to know. One is turnovers are a lot more frequent because of the nature
Oh
of the
yeah.
game. So you have to just be ready to go between O and D pretty quickly. You want to get the disc to the point is what I call it. It's like centered on the goal, maybe 4 yards back of the face of the goal. Like if you can get the disc to that spot, you're going to have a really good opportunity to score, because you can attack with overhead throws from that angle, and you can throw to both sides and jam throws into the corners. Certainly cutting is completely different. Remember that picks are legal. So that changes the game too. If you can set a screen, you could actually run like basketball style screen and roll. Like that's an actual play you can run, because if the players switch and you make a good, well-timed cut off of the pick, you can be open for a little shallow cut that lets you catch and jump it in. There's like physicality, like boxing out in the goal. That's another big thing. There's like a lot more physicality in the goal space. And if you face guard, you will lose. Like you cannot just face guard. You have to see the disc and know where the disc is, because it changes a lot directionally. And even like 2-3 yards in one direction or the other can change the throwing windows, and you will get burned by good throwers in Goaltimate. You generally want to, worry less about turnovers that are happening like down by the goal in some ways. Like you're going to take a lot of shots into the end zone that don't work out, because the other team then has to go reset a long way away before they come back and score. It's not like they can just pick it up and score immediately.
that was going to be my point when you talked about how there's a lot more turnovers. You're free to be a lot more aggressive with your scoring attempts. I think is that you can
You almost
if
have
you
to
come in
be.
with an ultimate mindset and you're conservative, then you're going to do yourself a disservice. Another thing I see from when people who played a lot of ultimate, not a lot of Goldy, is particularly when you're clearing a lot of hucking, it's not always your best option. Sometimes just take the under and take 2 or 3 throws to clear it rather than trying to take them all at once. I know it's your only chance to huck, really, so you're like, want to take it, but you don't need it.
Errol asks, why would ultimate players want to play this? Well, I think it makes first of all, it's a lot more touches. You're gonna touch the disc a ton compared to an ultimate game. It's gonna work on your space throwing a lot. It's gonna work on your reset skills a lot. And I find the game a lot of fun. Like it's intense. You can sub in and out more frequently. There's like on the fly hockey style subbing, and there's a lot of creativity with the throwing. In ultimate, you're like end zone sets are reset, swing, and then like a good hard break side cut, or sometimes you see some creative throwing around the end zones, but mostly good offenses are just going to move the disc and then get a simple score to essentially either a shallow break or just literally a wide open break side continuation. In Goaltimate, you have to be more creative. You're often going to be looking for little seams, throwing like a really visionary throw where you're like throwing it into the goal space well before the player has arrived. Because if you just try to set up and just get an easy throw in, like it's always going to be defended because the defenders are going to be watching the disc a lot more than they would be in an ultimate game. So I find it fun.
Yeah, and you know that feeling you get when you throw like a perfect throw through the cup and it feels like you like slid one right past them? Like you get that a lot in Goaltimate with these tricky throws. And that kind of feeling is a really, really fun one that is harder to get in Ultimate. Also, you need a lot less people and less space. So sometimes Ultimate players might play it because they don't have 14 people hanging around and 110 yards of 40-yard width available to them.
Yep. All right. That is going to do it for this week's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Next week, we'll be breaking down Northwest Challenge, getting you ready for the final weekend of the college regular season, and a whole lot more. So we look forward to having you with us next Tuesday at noon Eastern, always right here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. For Keith Raynor, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you next week right here on Deep Look.
Go Huskies, go Gators. They're strong, baby.
Lobos NIT. Oh, great.